An act of kindness without expecting something in return is genuinely worth more than the grandest intention. Greetings, here we are again, as I will narrate as usual, yet another exciting story about a woman who decided to visit her deceased father-in-law's apartment a year after his funeral and got astonished by what she saw. It will surely leave you with a great life lesson, so sit back and relax. But before that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like and notification bell for you to be updated for the upcoming exciting stories. Thank you. To start with, our story will revolve around Natasha, Alexis, and Alexis's father, Atrium. Natasha and Alexis met unexpectedly until they had fallen in love with each other and decided to be in a relationship. To make their relationship official, Alexis brought Natasha to his father's house to finally meet him. Atrium was a disabled veteran from the army. Upon seeing Natasha, the old man immediately talks to Alexis and persuades him to marry her. Undoubtedly, Natasha is a very lovely, witty and cheerful woman. She is very soft-spoken and never gets into fights with her fiancé Alexis. At first, Alexis was hesitant to marry Natasha because of her financial instability. Aside from that, she also came from a low-income family down in the village. However, the father convinced him that money and inheritance should not be his standard in choosing a wife. Thus, it should be beyond reason. Alexis finally married Natasha. They decided to move into the house of Alexis's father. Natasha and the old man developed a strong attachment that Atrium already considered her as his real daughter. He even bought gifts and gave her money. His father-in-law also helped Natasha to send her youngest sister to college. There comes a time that Alexis barely talks to Natasha. He didn't even get to spend time with her. He has become too busy at work, Atrium noticed. He talked to his son about those numerous times, but Alexis seemed unbothered. Years had passed. Alexis's strange behaviour persists. Natasha felt the solitude and misery of being an unhappily married wife. She mentioned to Alexis about having a baby, but the latter did not like the idea and diverted the topic. One day, Atrium was able to buy a beautiful house from his retirement subsidy. The house was in a town, a simple and quiet place to be. When he opted to move there, he found out that it would be difficult living there, given his physical condition and as his house is far from civilization. He requested his son to move there with him. Alexis refused, instead ordered his wife to accompany him and take care of his father. Natasha did what her husband told her to do. She took care of her father-in-law and was responsible for all the errands in the house. Atrium realised that Natasha still aims for a university degree. To show his gratitude and appreciation, he pays Natasha in return for all the kindness that she's been showing towards him. He has also become aware that Alexis no longer gives her money, even though they are married. The two spent most of their days wandering the places and pushing his wheelchair. Atrium often told her how grateful he is that she's taking care of him, while the real son didn't even bother to visit or even call. As time went by, Atrium's health also started to decline, which made him at risk of different health issues. He was admitted to the hospital, but unfortunately, after several days, he could not resist the complications and eventually died. Natasha once again felt the desolation and misery upon losing the old man she considered like a father, for she lost her father at a noticeably young age of 3. Natasha kept on visiting her father-in-law's grave for several days until she accepted his death. She decided to find a source of income, for no one else would help her. However, Alexis refused to find a job. He asked her to return to their apartment and stay at home. She had no choice but to conform to his decisions. Natasha spends most of her time attending to the demands and needs of her husband. She also tries her best to reach out to him. On the other hand, he rarely spoke at all to her, much like before. He even seldomly goes home, and Natasha does not have a slightest idea where he goes to sleep. One day, exactly a year after the death of her father-in-law, Natasha decided to go to her father-in-law's apartment to check and look for her husband. She was holding the key when she noticed that the lock had been changed. Since Natasha could not open the door, she knocked. A woman and a young boy stepped out, asking who she is and what she needs. Natasha immediately answered that she is the wife of Alexis, the house owner, and she's supposed to be asking the same questions to them. Meanwhile, the woman just smiled foolishly, exclaiming that she was the wife of Alexis and the boy holding her hand is their son. The woman immediately closed the door, threatening her to leave or else she will call the police. Bewildered from what she heard, Natasha called Alexis through the phone and starts to ask him the truth. Was he really married to another woman? Alexis did not respond. He just assured her that he would explain once she returned to the apartment. Natasha was in deep pain. She resists going home. She finds herself in a park and there she cries herself out. Suddenly, a 5-year-old boy notices her and began to ask why she's crying. Natasha refuses to answer him, so the young boy called his grandmother. Natasha narrates what actually happened to her. The boy and the old woman start to introduce themselves as Misha and Tatiana respectively. They insisted on bringing Natasha to their apartment where they live. On the way, Natasha told her that Misha was her grandson. His father, named Igor, separated from their wife 2 years ago. Since Igor goes to work outside the city, she must take care of Misha. Once they arrived at the apartment, Natasha told Tatiana that she no longer wants to go back home and reconcile with her unfaithful husband. She also admits to her that she's been blinded by the idea of being in love. That is why she still stayed though, but what she only received was unfair treatment. Upon hearing that, Misha asked if she wants to stay in their apartment for good. Misha really felt comfortable with Natiala. The old lady assured her that she doesn't need to be compensated for the rent and doesn't need to worry about any daily expenses. What she would just do is to help her in doing the chores and taking care of Misha. Natasha eventually agreed to their offer. Natasha taught Misha how to read, write, and even told him stories that he enjoyed listening to. She also made delicious food for them. All the kindness and pure intentions Natasha showed to them were admired by the two. That made Misha call her Mama. Once hearing that, Natasha felt too emotional, for she greatly desired to have a child of her own, but it did not happen. Months had passed, and Igor, Tatiana's son and Misha's father, finally came home. Igor missed his family. That's why he hugged his son and mother so tightly as soon as he entered the house. When he noticed the presence of Natasha, he asked his mother about her. Tatiana immediately answered that she is a friend that they recently met and stays in their house in the meantime. Since Igor trusted his mother, he eventually welcomed Natasha, for he believes that she is a good and kind woman. Unknowingly, Igor's heart was captivated by Natasha's beauty. He could not take his eyes away from her, so he could not resist smiling whenever Natasha was around. Days had passed, and Igor's feelings kept on getting stronger, especially when he noticed his son and Natasha were happy together. A couple of months had passed. Tatiana starts to notice the strange things about Igor. She urges him to confess his feelings towards Natasha and should arrange a marriage proposal right away. Igor immediately bought a ring and confessed his love to Natasha. Natasha happily answered to him with a yes. Natasha immediately arranges the divorce proceedings for her and Alexis so she can marry Igor. As their marriage is approaching, she began to notice that her tummy is getting larger. Upon a checkup, she finds out that she is pregnant and Igor is the father. They are both happy with the blessing that is coming out. Natasha married Igor and gave birth to an extremely healthy and beautiful baby that they named Satina. They lived together in peace, forming a happy family that she always desired to have. One fine morning, an unanticipated turn of events happened. A lawyer came to them. He told Natasha that her late father-in-law, Arterium, left a testament stating that his house would be given to Natasha as inheritance, providing with all documents needed to prove it. Upon knowing this, Alexis was confused. He had to leave his father's house. He couldn't understand why his father gave the house to Natasha instead of giving it to him, in which he was the legitimate child. But realization finally struck him that Natasha treated his father better than he ever did. Natasha felt so emotional and thanked Atrium for giving her that beautiful house. She took her new family and went there to spend the rest of their lives. At the end of the day, those with a good heart and pure intentions are the ones that live in peace. Indeed, a simple act of kindness truly creates a positive outcome in the end. Thank you for joining me as we unleashed another story of inspiration and full of life lessons. Join me again on my next video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like and notification bell to stay on track with our future stories. Keep safe.